All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the House of the Faith, and I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before the priest word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's topic, and the topic is a question my brother Eula sent concerning hell, and he was reading Revelation 20, and wanted to know when it's referring to hell, like kind of get some clarification on it. Peace to you, brother. So it says in Revelation 20 and 14, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Okay, so now, how is it that death and hell is cast into the lake of fire? Well, oftentimes we think about the lake of fire, or those words, we thinking about hell. That is hell. That's the second death. That is certainly hell. But what we should understand is that hell is a state of condition. Okay, so let's read it into it. Okay, so now this is Revelation 20 and verse. Actually, before I do that, let's just show you that death is a state of condition. Okay, so I want to pick it up at let's see. Let's go to Psalms. And we want to pick it up in Psalms, the 16th division. Okay, so now here, this is what David, peace to you, brother, David wrote this, but now let's see what he is referring to when he says hell. He says in verse 8, Psalm 16 and 8, I have set the Lord always before me, because he has at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. So now when he's talking about this, he's not referring to himself. He's prophesying of the Messiah. He's saying his flesh is going to rest in hope. He tells you why. He says, for thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. What does that mean? He's referring to the Messiah. He didn't allow his, it says, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption, because he was only in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay. Just to show you an example, what I'm talking about here with this, give me a moment. Just something that was said in the New Testament. I'm going to pick it up in John 11 chapter. John 11 chapter, just to see something here. John 11 chapter and verse 39. John 11 and verse 39 reads, Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh. We have been dead 4 days. Okay, so imagine if he was there for a long time, right? So now let's go to Acts, the 1st chapter, because just to understand that we're not talking about, or David wasn't talking about himself. This is Acts, the 1st chapter, the 2nd chapter. Here on the day of Pentecost, Peter says something concerning David. He says, verse 25, Acts 2 and verse 25. He said, for David speaking concerning him, I foresaw the Lord always before my face, for he is on my right hand, that I should not be moved. Therefore did my heart rejoice and my tongue was glad. Moreover, also my flesh shall rest in hope, because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou hast made known to me the ways of life. Thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance. Then he says, men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God has sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne. He saying this before spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, neither his flesh did see corruption. This Jesus had God raised up where we are all witnesses. So they saw him resurrected. Now, wait a minute, though, after the resurrection, but so what's the hell here? The hell is the grave. Okay? So the hell is the grave. So it's not, you got hell, the lake of fire, which is a second death, but you also, again, hell is a state of condition, and you have to qualify hell, just like you have to qualify heaven, just like you got to qualify spirit, just like you got to qualify the sons of God. When you read those terms in the Bible, you have to qualify them. So now, when you read in Psalms the 16th chapter, for now when I leave my soul in hell, now that without suffer that Holy One to see corruption, this hell is grave. Let's go to another place. Let's go to the book of Jonah. I'm in Jonah, the 2nd chapter. Here, this prophet trying to run. Peace to you, Brother Willie. Peace to you. This brother trying to run from God when he had a message. He received a message from God that he didn't want to deliver. You know, it's like Adam trying to hide from God. You can't run from God. But nevertheless, Jonah, this is what it says he did, because he had something for Jonah. He had a well for Jonah. So Jonah chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly. So now he's praying to God, and he says, and said, I cried by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me out of the belly of hell. Cried I, and thou heardest my voice. Now this hell was like the tomb of the whale, the whale's belly. So now he's in a precarious situation. He's in a terrible state. Let's see. So, one moment. Let's go back to Revelation. Because when you talk about hell, you have to be, again, it's a state of condition. And so here, when you read it, if you're thinking that hell is only talking about the lake of fire. Matter of fact, let's go to Jude, just to show you another one. Let's go to Jude. Let's see. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Said I want to go to Jude, but okay, let's see. Oh wait, hold on a second. Mom, give me a moment. Maybe Peter. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. 2 Peter. My apologies. 2 Peter 2 and 2 Peter 2. I want to pick it up in verse 4. He said something. He said, for if God spare not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Now, This hell is not talking about he cast it into hell, the lake of fire. The hell, the lake of fire is not even established yet, even unto this day. So what is he talking about? Now let's go to Jude. Let's read it again. Then we're going to go to Jude. Then we'll go to another place. It said, for if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Now let's go to Jude. He says in Jude, there's only one chapter, it's right before Revelation. It's written, and the angel, in verse 6, and the angels was kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. What was the habitation? They left heaven. He hath reserved in everlasting chains of darkness unto the judgment of the great day. That hasn't taken place yet, so they can't be in hell. Where are they? Revelation, the 12th chapter. Revelation, the 12th chapter. I want to pick it up at verse... Revelation, the 12th chapter, and I want to pick it up at verse 7. This is 7. It says, and there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. That was their habitation. Who? Satan and his angels. Then it says something, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So he's calling hell being in the state that they're in, cast down from their first habitation, which was being in heaven with God, to the earth, being reserved up until a time reserved for judgment. Now let's go to back to Peter, because this should make sure we know where he's at. We in 1 Peter, the 5th chapter, in verse 8, it says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Where, though? Go to Job. Let's go to Job and find out where. It's real clear, but see, he called it hell, but that's not the lake of fire, because in that same place where we read it, said he was reserved unto judgment. Judgment haven't taken place yet. Let's go to we in Job 1 and verse 6. It said, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Now we read that he's walking to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. Then it says, and the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So he's in the earth, but that's hell, because that's the situation, the circumstances that he left heaven, was cast out of heaven, and he's on the earth reserved for a specific time. He said unto judgment. So it don't mean when they say he cast down to hell, that's talking about, again, it's a condition. Matthew the 8th chapter. Matthew the 8th chapter, just to show you that. And it's at a specific time when he's going to be cast into the lake of fire, hell. Matthew the 8th chapter, verse 29. Verse 28, it says in verse 28, Matthew 8 and 28, and when he was come to the other side in the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, verse 29, and behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither or here to torment us before the time? Peace to you, brother Nicodemus. See, it's a specific time. It ain't even happened yet. So how is he cast to hell? Because he's here on this earth. Reserved, and you can't see him because he's under the chains of darkness. That's a type of hell. Jonah was in hell when he was in a whale's belly. Jesus was in hell when he was in the grave. Hell is a state of condition. So now, let's go back to Revelation, the 20th chapter, and find out when Satan is going to be cast into hell. Revelation, because he's not even the first one that's cast into hell, the lake of fire. Again, we have to qualify things. Revelation, the 20th chapter and verse 1, it says, and I saw an angel come down, the 19th chapter. Revelation, the 19th chapter And listen to what it says. Revelation 19 and verse 20. It says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him. This is at the end of Armageddon. Okay, this is at the time of Armageddon, at the end of the Great Tribulation, excuse me. So the Lord comes back, the Messiah comes back, and he makes war. And he takes those two men that have come up during the time of the Great Tribulation. It says in Revelation 19 and 20, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. These are the first ones to be cast into hell. This, and then what's going to happen is the Lord is going to establish his kingdom on this earth. Is going to be 1,000 years of peace. And at that time, Satan is bound. So it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven. I'm right in Revelation 20 and 1. Okay. So just so you know, that these were the first ones, we're going to read it here. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan. Now, it doesn't say that he cast him into the lake of fire. It says, and bound him 1,000 years and cast him into the bottomless pit. Now, what does he mean, the bottomless pit? And shut him up and set, you notice not hell, because hell is eternal. Then he said, and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. In other words, he put out a commission, because it's going to be 1,000 years of peace. So it says, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. So it's not like he coming out of hell like a fire to do wreak some more havoc. No, what happens is he's put in obscurity. He's put out of commission at that time. Hold your finger here. We're coming back. We're going to go to Isaiah, the 66th chapter. Isaiah, the 66th chapter. There's going to be peace at that time. Isaiah, the 66th chapter, I'm going to pick it up at verse 22. Isaiah 66 and 22 says, for as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. Now listen to what's going to happen during this time of the Lord's kingdom. It says, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. Because you're going to have the first resurrection when he comes back. And you're going to have the battle of Armageddon, and all those who are left of the nations, because it's going to be dead men from one end of this earth to the very other. It's going to be like it was in the days of Noah. It's going to be like it was in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah as far as the destruction. Then he establishes his kingdom. He puts down all power, and you have the first resurrection. The righteous come up, and then they reign with him during this 1,000 years of peace. And it's peace on earth because Satan, that one that's called to and fro, seeking whom he may devour, is put in obscurity. Okay, so the figurative language of bottomless pit, put a seal. Bottomless pit is not referring to hell, the lake of fire. But it says something. Now, when the men that are left, it said they're going to go up. You can read this in Zechariah as well. They go up during the appointed times. You read about the Feast of Tabernacles when the Lord is king on this earth. People are going to be dealing with it. So it says in verse 23, it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. What men transgressed against him? Revelation 19 and verse 20. It says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. These are the first two, not Satan and his angels. The beast and the false prophet are the first two to be cast into the lake of fire. So now, when you read that they gonna go up and worship, and they gonna see the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, that's what they're seeing during this 1,000 years millennial reign. It says, for their, and you know it's talking about the hell, because it says, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched. Read that in Mark 9, and they shall be an appointing unto all flesh. That's going to be an incentive to show you what happens when you sin against God. So now they are there for 1,000 years. Then it says something. it says, and the devil, well, hold on, and in verse 7, Revelation 20 and 7. Well, 6, I will pick it up there because it's 1,000 years of peace. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power. But they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So at the end of the round, it's having that end of the 1,000 years of peace, Satan's going to be doing what he was doing before that 1,000 years, was wreaking havoc. So now what he's doing, then it says, and they went up. So Gog and Magog go up. It says they go to battle. It says they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And so now they're going to attack Jerusalem. And then what happens? It says, and fire came down from God out of heaven. So the Father rained down fire on them and devoured them. Then listen to what happened. Listen to what happens. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. That's how you know when it said the bottomless pit, that was referring to the lake of fire. So now he's in the lake of fire. He's in hell. Verse 11 says, and I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great. So now this is the rest of those. You saw those who came up in the first resurrection, the righteous, right? You read about that in Thessalonians, where they're going to meet him in the air. And then they're going to come down and take over this earth. They're going to reign right here on the earth. But that's where that's where Jesus' throne is. It's headquartered in Jerusalem. So it says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works, and the sea gave up the dead. Now, here we are. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works. Okay, so now, this ultimately, brothers and sisters, is going to be the end of death, period. And not only is it, you have to understand what came with death. When the Lord said, in the day thou eatest of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt surely die. It wasn't just that you died. You had all the turmoil and pain and heartache and stress and disorder and that came, and the pouring of your flesh when it breaks down, all that came with death. Sickness and pain came with death. All that's going to be alleviated. So it's like, so he's speaking as it's being thrown into the lake of fire, but ultimately that's the end of it. Because there is no more. Listen to what he's saying. He said, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. It's not as saying that the lake of fire was cast into the lake of fire. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Ultimately, that condition, that's over. That's over. Then it says, and whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Listen to what he says and go right into 21. It says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. See, there's no more flesh and blood at this time. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. In other words, the dwelling of God is with men. The Father and the Son are going to be here on this earth. And with them, resurrected beings. So it says, and I heard in verse 3 and verse 21, chapter 21 and 3, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. And he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. See, there's no more pain. He says, and there shall be no more death. See, that state, that's done. It's like when it's talking about death and hell were cast into the lake of fire, all turmoil and pain is not going to be experienced by the righteous anymore, because they have received salvation. So that state of man, that human condition that existed since Adam, dies. Peace to you, Sister Ruth. So it said, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away. That's over. That's ultimately what the 8th day is pointing to when you look at the Feast of Tabernacles. When we shall share this tabernacle and take upon a celestial body. And then it's going to be a brand new thing. A brand new thing. A new heaven and a new earth. And the Father and the Son are going to be here with the resurrected beings. And it's going to be God in all. Because you'll be a part of the God family. You'll be what your Father is. Jesus Christ, the first fruits of the Christ at his coming. So when you read that, it's not as if the lake of fire is being cast into the lake of fire. He's speaking figuratively here. And he's talking about ultimately the end of the condition of hell. Oh, that's over. Because all at once that whoever cast in the lake of fire and Satan and his angels cast in the lake of fire, everything, if you gain salvation, all that dies right then. All that pain, that sorrow, that suffering, that death, all that's over. That's over. So that's just a little bit on that. Brother said most Gentiles want to gain this kingdom now instead of the Mashiach righteous kingdom, as well as some of Israel who is in hell now, or state of condition on this earth. You know what, brother? I rarely even come into contact with people who actually have a concept of the kingdom being established on the earth. Everybody that I come into contact with that are so-called Christians, they don't even talk about a kingdom being established on this earth. They usually talk about going to heaven. They had a concept of the soul that is inside of you, and that soul goes off to heaven when you die. They don't even talk about the kingdom on the earth. So you hear Jehovah's Witnesses talk about the kingdom on the earth. Sometimes you might hear somebody talk about it, but for the most part, they want to be in heaven. They talk about being in heaven. So, but I'm not saying that, that's not accurate. I'm just saying that's just my personal experience. My personal experience is the ones that talk about the kingdom. They talk about the kingdom and heaven. Some gonna go to heaven, some will be in the kingdom, or they mainly talk about heaven. That's what I usually hear. I don't even hear them talking about the kingdom being on this earth. But again, that's my personal experiences. And so you have to dispel that, as opposed to them thinking that and then you do hear some talking about the kingdom of God is established right now. You do hear that. You are correct. You do hear that. You are correct. Yeah, I have heard that as well. But of course, I think my father even touched upon that on the lesson he did on the Sabbath, talking about how, people talking about the kingdom is here on the earth right now. But even that's not the majority. The majority of people, they talking about about being in heaven, getting their angels' wings and being up there with, with people who have died. All right, with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the House of the Faith, meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. If you've been edified through the ministry, you can leave a donation on our website. Again, that's www.israelteach.org. 100% of the proceeds goes to the work of the ministry. I want to remind you also that the book, For Then Shall Be Great Tribulation, is out. It's available where books are sold, Amazon, etc. And with that, brothers and sisters, peace to everybody that's listening. And it's always my prayer that you will edify.